Right now, the search is on for 3 people who police say shot at a Savannah rapper, killing a member of his entourage. It happened in Los Angeles, and cameras captured the aftermath.
This wild video shows Quando Rondo's friend getting pulled out of a car. You can see Quando panic, and it makes sense, because his best friend had just been killed by the ops. Back then, no one knew for sure who did it, but now the truth is starting to come out.
I don't know if people still say it. They used to say it, but you also mention a song, they'd be like...
Just wait until you see this video where DK admits to it. You won't believe this footage of QU's homie. On August 19th, 2022, 5 masked men pulled up on Quando Rondo and his friend Lil Durk and started shooting. Quando was parked at a gas station, and when the shots rang out, he ducked and tried to protect himself. Somehow, he made it out without getting hit. But his friend Lil Durk, who was also his cousin, wasn't as lucky. As you'd expect, the whole thing left Quando traumatized. The footage from that day is intense. What's said to be CCTV shows the shooting, and after that, we see Quando's reaction. He looks shocked and confused, not really sure what's going on. But when the police pull his cousin's body out of the car, he completely breaks down. In the video, you can see Quando Rondo flailing his arms, clearly disturbed. His cousin, known as Lil Durk, was likely killed just because he was with Quando at the time. What makes this even more interesting is that Durk was supposed to appear in court for some serious charges, but he was shot and killed just 1 week before his trial. And this wasn't just any case. Durk was facing a RICO charge. Basically, he was about to be hit with racketeering charges, which are no joke. He was also known as Bandit Pablo and had a big reputation across Georgia. His charges dated back to 2019, when he and 10 others allegedly went on a major crime spree, accused of burglary, breaking into cars, and auto theft. But that's just the beginning. So it's clear Quando Rondo was hanging out with some dangerous people. But what does this have to do with Lil Durk? Actually, a lot. At first, nobody really knew why Durk and Quando were targeted, but after Durk's recent arrest, things are starting to make more sense. Durk definitely had his share of enemies, but it turns out the real reason he was killed was simply because he was close to Quando. Just recently, federal agents arrested 5 men from Chicago who they believe were behind the shooting. They're being charged with conspiracy to commit murder and retaliating for King Von's death. So, why did it take nearly 2 years to arrest anyone? We're about to break it all down. But first, here's what we know happened on the day Durk was murdered. According to the indictment, a group of gang members from Chicago flew to LA planning to kill Quando Rondo. The gang is allegedly OTF, the same name as Durk's music label. Durk has always said OTF is just a crew, not a gang, but the police aren't buying it, especially when so many of his lyrics mention street activity. Investigators say the OTF members booked flights from Chicago to LA using a credit card tied to one of the gang. They reportedly got a tip about Quando's location and made their move. One member, named Grant, allegedly ran the whole thing. He flew in separately from Miami on a private jet and arranged cars, guns, and even fake license plates for the hit. After the shooting, the crew supposedly went to a nearby burger spot to talk about payment, then flew back to Chicago like nothing happened. Meanwhile, Quando was left mourning his cousin, and the internet was full of speculation about who was behind the attack. People suspected it had something to do with Von, but there was no proof until now. Killers may have thought they got away with it, but the feds were quietly building their case. Now they've finally made their move. What's also wild is that Durk was getting ready to drop a new album, but now he's pushed it back to the end of November. Maybe he's hoping he'll be out by then. But from what we've learned, that might be wishful thinking. Police say they've got strong evidence against him, and even an informant close to him who's already snitched. Before all this, Durk was on a winning streak. He had a clean record, was given the key to the city, and was about to drop new music. The shooting happened 2 years ago, so maybe he thought he was in the clear. But people have been pointing fingers at him for a long time. It just took a while for the law to catch up. Now, people are digging up more and more proof. 2 years ago, the internet was going crazy trying to figure out who tried to kill Quando. And it turns out, someone on Reddit may have cracked the case before the cops did. They found a story Quando posted back in 2022. At first glance, it didn't seem like a big deal. But once you connect the dots, it tells a whole different story. But that Instagram post revealed some wild details. In it, Quando said, "I'm my own man. I laid my flag down. I'm not NH. Y'all ain't gonna ride for real. There's no reason for me to be part of y'all." Expletive. He was talking about leaving the Crips. Yup, Quando Rondo was a known member of the Crips, one of the most infamous gangs in America. That's why he was always seen rocking blue. More specifically, he was part of the LA-based neighborhood Rollin' 60s Crips, the same gang Nipsey Hussle was in before he passed. Why does this matter? Because Quando claimed his own gang turned their back on him, and some even think they set him up. That IG post shook the streets because you're not supposed to just walk away from the Crips. If you want out, you're supposed to get jumped out, which means getting beat up by multiple gang members as a kind of exit ritual. Quando didn't want to go through that, and his gang wasn't cool with it. Members like Jay Stone fired back online. He posted, "You can't drop your flag and say you not NH no more." Expletive, go to the hood and get put off. Don't cry. Now we lose homies all the time. Not everybody gonna ride. He was a goofy internet banger anyway. Another rapper, the now deceased Fivio, also chimed in. He said, "Dog, homeboy died in Cali and now he wanna squash beef and throw his flag in? Too late for that, nephew." At first, this all might seem unrelated to Pab's murder, but it's not. The Crenshaw area of LA is home to a section of the Rollin' 60s called the Score Gang. And here's where it gets interesting. One of their Instagram pages posted a story that showed Lil Durk allegedly linking up with them. If Quando was already beefing with Durk and now Durk's getting cool with a group from Quando's old gang, yeah, things start to make sense. That might explain why Quando gave up his flag. Right after all that, Durk dropped a song called Aha, where he raps, "I can have your homie set you up, his ass a middleman." A lot of people think that line is aimed straight at Quando Rondo. And then there's this, an IG story from an OTF member. The crazy part? It seems like they knew Pab had been shot in the head before that info was made public. There's a lot of stuff tying Durk and OTF to the shooting, but the biggest clue? An old interview with DJ Academics. In that interview, Ak asked Durk about the whole Slide for Vaughn campaign, a social media movement that kept calling Durk out, asking why he hadn't avenged King Von's death yet. Durk's answer might have seemed harmless back then, but now? After his arrest, that interview hits way different.
Live for Vaughn comments. I don't know if people still say it. They used to say it, but you also mentioned a song. They'd be like, they be saying Slide for Vaughn. I think they trolling me. Yeah, by the way, that song is fire. I ain't gonna lie.
For some reason, I just don't see the comments no more. For some odd reason. I don't know. Might be the water. You be in the comments a lot?
Just look at Academic's face, you can see him putting 2 and 2 together, and then when he realizes what Durk means, he says this.
They kind of chilled out a bit.
I wonder why.
That old interview with Academics hits way different now, and you can bet the prosecution is going to use it in court. But honestly, is it even that surprising? We've known for a while that OTF and King Von's people wanted Quando Rondo gone. Didn't realize, though, is just how involved Durk might have been. Now the real question is, how did Durk get caught? The answer? He was betrayed. Or at least that's what a lot of people think. And it wasn't just anyone who snitched. It was someone from inside his own camp. Word is Lil Durk was snitched on by none other than OTF Jam, a member of his own crew. And get this, OTF Jam allegedly wore a wire for 12 years. Yep, for over a decade, he was secretly feeding the police information on Durk, OTF, and their associates. It gets even crazier. Jam was supposedly serving a 12-year sentence and got released right after the shooting involving Quando and Lil Pab. Timing has a lot of people raising eyebrows. Online, fans have had a lot to say. Some are pointing out how Durk might have also snitched on himself in his lyrics. In one song, he raps about doing a mission in Cali and being stuck in traffic. People think that's a nod to what went down with Pab. One user commented on the irony, saying, "They clowned Durk for not sliding for Von. Now the same people laughing because he went down for it." Another said, "A wire for multiple years? They cooked." If the snitching rumors are true, the feds might know way more than anyone expected about Durk and OTF's alleged crimes. But who exactly is this OTF Jam? And why would he flip? Well, another Chicago rapper, King Yella, spoke up about it. According to him, OTF Jam actually implicated Durk in the murder of Lil Pab. What he says next is wild. Check it out.
By the feds. I don't know if he's been charged with nothing. Probably questioning it. They put in OTF in a lot of things. But I heard somebody named OTF Jam. They said they've been calling him a rat. And basically he said, okay, I'm a rat.
Yell then explains that if anybody in OTF even mentions Durk's name, that's all it's going to take for the police to bring him down.
Yeah, watch this. Watch this. That's all this information that I know. Rat this, I'm gonna tell this, I'm gonna tell that. My video earlier, I told y'all, man. If somebody say Durk's name, that's all it's gonna take to say that man's name. And obviously, like I said earlier too, if they come with that.
Yell then goes into why this is not a random arrest and that somebody definitely snitched.
Somebody telling, somebody from OTF, somebody OTF affiliated, somebody that know enough information on Lil Durk and his crew. And it's messed up. That's why I be saying, I don't care how much money you got, what's going on, man, these people will throw you under the bus.
He then says that he feels like Durk knew this was coming.
Maybe Durk felt it already. He felt that it was coming. It was something coming. He knew something was coming. You know how he knew something coming? Because everybody kept saying, he's trying to dodge that Rico. Everybody been saying this. So if everybody else knew it, you think he wasn't in his head? Mama Duck suing him. Everybody.
So that pretty much sums up what everyone's saying about Durk getting snitched on. But here's something most people don't know. OTF Jam actually dropped a song right after getting out of prison. And guess what it's called? Federal Freestyle. Nope, not a joke. That's literally the title. But it gets crazier. It was released on Lil Durk's official YouTube channel. If that's not a red flag, I don't know what is. The internet, of course, had a field day in the comments. One user said, "I Jam, turn your wire up. This, my song now, feds." Another one wrote, "He came home wearing a wire and still dropped a track? That's some nasty work." Since Jam was released right before the song dropped, people are convinced he was working with the feds the moment he got out. And with everything we're hearing from King Yella, Reddit, and now even Whack 100, it's starting to add up. Whack 100 spoke about it in an interview with DJ Vlad. He said Jam served 12 years, got out, and was treated like a real one. Durk even gave him $50,000, some cars, and said there was no smudge on his name. But according to Whack, Jam caught a gun case and eventually flipped. DJ Vlad added that Jam was originally locked up for attempted murder back in 2010 and got out in 2022, which lines up exactly with the timeline of Lil Pab's murder. Since then, Jam has allegedly been wearing a wire and feeding the feds information on Lil Durk and OTF. Based on what we know, the FBI had been building their case for a while and waiting for the perfect moment to move in. Right now, it's too early to say how it'll all play out, but it's definitely not looking good for Durk. He was this close to leaving the street life behind. But the events from 2020 are finally catching up to him. Let's break down what those events were, starting with Quando Rondo versus King Von. Most people know about the beef, but not many know what actually started it. And it wasn't even between them directly. It was between King Von and NBA Youngboy. Here's what allegedly went down, according to Reddit. Von and Quando were actually cool at one point. There's even footage of them chilling backstage together. But everything changed when Von got out of jail and went on IG Live, saying he liked Youngboy's music. There are even clips of him singing Youngboy's songs online. But then out of nowhere, Von went on another live, dissing Youngboy, saying his music was fake and calling his raps cap. People think Vaughn may have asked for a feature and Youngboy ignored him, which could have sparked the tension. Things got worse when Vaughn posted a picture with Jania, Youngboy's baby mama. She claimed they were just working on music, but the internet took it and ran. Hours later, Youngboy clapped back with a savage post saying, "I'll have my son with your daughter since you want to troll." Then it escalated even more. Youngboy dropped a snippet of a track featuring Asian doll, Vaughn's ex. Vaughn wasn't having it. He fired back on Twitter, calling the track trash and even saying he had dirt on their baby moms that would make them not want to claim their kids. Meanwhile, Quando Rondo got dragged into all of it. Vaughn publicly trolled him over his album sales and sided with Youngboy's rivals like Fredo Bang and Jada Youngin. From that point, there was no fixing their relationship. Then, the day before Vaughn died, he did an interview with academics. In it, he said there was no real beef in the music industry unless somebody gets killed. Ironic, because the very next day, he became the one who lost his life. And that's exactly why Quando Rondo got pulled into all this, because NBA Youngboy was like a mentor to him, just like Durk was a mentor to Vaughn. After Vaughn was killed, Quando got tons of hate for it, so he tried to clear the air in an interview with Angela Yee.
So let's back up, because I know you and Durk was cool. Obviously, he was on your album, and y'all was cool, and you was cool with Vaughn. So that night when you was in the parking lot, what led up to you even being in the parking lot?
It's true they did actually have a song together after that. Quando goes on to explain what happened that night that led to death, and further explains why he and Durk were cool, and says that unlike some of his own friends, Durk never once charged him for a feature.
Dude never charged him.
There's no changing the past, and what happened happened. V hit Quando, and QU's gang retaliated here. You can see CCTV video of the fateful night where V was killed. You see V in the white shirt approach Quando, who's leaning on the car. V then starts showering him with punches. Quando tries to escape, but then his friend L. Tim starts letting off shots in the same. Angela Yee interviewed Quando speaks about the punch and describes it as an out-of-body experience.
So
Quando was supposedly just taking a nap in his car while waiting for one of his friends. He stepped out for a second, and that's when King Von approached and attacked him. After the first hit, Quando's best friend Lil Tim, whose real name is Timothy Leaks, jumped in to defend him. He pulled out a gun and shot Vaughn. The rest is history. Right after Vaughn's death, Tim was charged with murder. But in the end, all the charges were dropped and he walked free. Vaughn's team was furious. Even his ex-girlfriend posted on Twitter, claiming the police were the real reason Vaughn died, not Tim. While Quando was technically the victim of a random attack, Vaughn's people, especially Durk, never forgave him. As Durk and Vaughn, they go way back. They didn't just share music, they shared a history. In fact, back in 2019, both of them were arrested together in connection to a shooting. It happened on February 5th, outside a spot in Atlanta called the Varsity. A man named Alexander Witherspoon was shot during what prosecutors said was a robbery. His Jeep and around $30,000 in cash were stolen. He survived, but with a gunshot wound to his leg. Inside the courtroom, prosecutors broke it all down. They described what the victim said happened that night, and how Durk and Vaughn allegedly played a part in it.
He said his chain was snatched off his neck, and he had $30,000 stolen from him, and they stole the vehicle he was driving.
They then say that there was video footage of Durk pulling the trigger.
You see Mr. Banks' arm out the window firing several shots at the victim, towards the victim.
The case took a surprising turn when their lawyer successfully argued that Durk's face wasn't clearly visible in the footage. Despite that, the incident was massive, drawing national attention due to the involvement of two of the world's biggest rappers, both of whom were deeply entrenched in Chicago gang culture. As their trial unfolded, police were concerned that the gang activity tied to Durk and Vaughn was spreading beyond Chicago and into Atlanta. To address the growing concern, they even brought in a Chicago police chief to testify in court. Vaughn and Durk were both denied bail and charged with aggravated assault, attempted murder, and street gang activity, among other charges. Although the shooting occurred in February 2019, it wasn't until May of that year that a warrant was issued for Durk's arrest. He turned himself in and even dropped a track about it, showing his defiance. Unfortunately, Vaughn passed away before a verdict was reached, but Durk was later cleared of all charges. However, another shooting emerged in the aftermath. This one took place after Von's death, but it was reportedly planned while he was still alive. The victim? FBG Duck, a well-known rival of Von, Durk, and O'Block, Durk's crew. After Duck's death, his family accused Von and Durk of being involved. In fact, just weeks before Durk's most recent arrest, Duck's mother filed a lawsuit, blaming Von and Durk for her son's murder. The shooting took place in 2020, shortly after Von was killed by Lil Tim, Quando Rondo's associate. FBG Duck was shot while standing outside a Dolce & Gabbana store in Chicago's Gold Coast. He died at the scene, and 2 others, including his girlfriend, were injured. Many believe that Von and Durk were behind the hit, just like they were allegedly responsible for the bounty on Quando Rondo's head. The lawsuit is intense. It targets not just Durk and Von, but everything tied to them, their businesses, estates, and other affiliated parties. Duck's murder had roots in the ongoing gang war in Chicago. Duck was part of the Gangster Disciples, GDs, while Von and Durk belonged to the rival Black Disciples, BDs, specifically O'Block. The tension between these two factions had been escalating for years, but things reached a boiling point when Von and Duck started dissing each other in rap tracks. Even though Von was killed before Duck, many believe Von put a bounty on Duck's head. This situation is starting to sound eerily similar to what Durk is now accused of, being involved in orchestrating hits within the gang world. Speaking of Von, it's important to understand his background. In January 2011, when Von was just 16, he was arrested for armed robbery. That would set the stage for a life of violent crime, which he continued throughout his career. By the time of his death, Von had been implicated in several murders, some of which he allegedly referenced in his songs, leading some to label him rap's first serial killer. Durk, too, has a criminal past, one that dates back to his youth. He's lost many friends to the streets and has been no stranger to controversy. Just before his arrest, he appeared on a live stream with Adam Ross, where he opened up about his criminal history and the impact it had on his career.
Yo, Durk, yo. I'm reacting to the new song, bro. It's really good.
You like it?
Really, really good, bro. I have a question though.
Yeah.
In the video, I see a bunch of mug shots. Is that you?
Yeah, all my mug shots like in my past.
You been in jail?
That ain't a good thing.
How many times though, bro?
How many mug shots up there?
Yeah, nah, bro. I love the song though, bro. I'm really happy you dropped this. It's very good. I'm gonna add it to my music for sure.
Man, I appreciate you've been locked in.
Yeah. Well, I'll chop it up with you later, bro.
I love.
All right, love.
So this is not his first run-in with the law, but from what we know, he was probably hoping it was his last. It seems he and many others of his Chicago associates are trying to stay away from the gang life. So if he can manage to beat this case, maybe it will be the last time he sees the inside of his cell. But he's got this to worry about first, and with the overwhelming evidence the feds have against him, it's not looking good. If you like this video and want to see more, make sure you click one of the cards on the screen now.